Picture this scenario. There's a long line at DMV. I know that's easy to imagine. But this man steps in, a very impatient man, sees the long line and gets in line, and he's just disgusted with it. After a few minutes of waiting and looking at his watch, he gets an idea, a nefarious idea. The person in front of him is really not watching anything. The person in front of him is kind of turned to the side looking at his smartphone. So Mr. Impatient quickly reaches around him and shoves the guy in front of him, and then quickly goes back to his place. So the guy who was shoved now turns around, looks at the guy behind him. The guy was looking at his phone and shoves him, thinking he did it. Pretty soon these two guys are in a shoving match. They start fighting, and Mr. Impatient says, "Hey guys, take it outside." So they leave the line, and Mr. Impatient steps forward. And then Mr. Impatient does that with the next two people, and the next two people, and the next two people, moving forward himself all the time. Mr. Impatience, friends, represents the devil and the lies that he has gotten us to believe. Many of us have bought into the lie that it's that other person that's the problem. That person with a different religious view than I have, they're an enemy. That person with a different political view than I have, they're the enemy. That person of a different color or race or ideology, they are the enemy. We've bought into this idea, and it is a lie. And of course, this impatient man very well reflects the devil, because the Bible says in Revelation 12:12 that the devil has come down to earth with great wrath because he knows his time is short. So he's going to cause as much trouble as he can because he knows he's going down. That impatient man also reflects the devil well, because he caused these other people to believe a lie that the other person was the problem. The Bible says in John 8:44 that the devil is the father of lies. And friends, when are we going to stop believing the lie that another person who has differences from us is or are the problem or problems? Just because a person has a different political view, I should not cut them off. Because here's the truth. Although someone may have a different religion than I am or a political view, and that doesn't mean we should change our views. We have that freedom of choice. We need to follow what we believe is truth. But just because they have differences from me, we need to understand that doesn't mean they're the enemy. We should see them as our ally. Because in reality, as a fellow human being, they have more in common with us. We have more in common with them than we may be thinking. That person of a different color, that person of a different political view has blood, red blood running through their veins. That person of a different color or background is breathing oxygen like we are. That person has joys and fears and concerns and people they love and people they're concerned about and medical issues and financial challenges just like we do. The reality is many of us have bought into the lie that another human being who has differences from us are the problem. And if we keep separating ourselves, we will become isolated, and isolation further makes things worse. Our thinking gets worse. We could become more and more isolated and become enemies. The reason we have, obviously we have to go to war sometimes, we have to fight, but the reason there are wars is because we bought the lie. We've bought the lie that another person is the enemy instead of our ally. I want to encourage you in joining me in doing everything I can in God's power and through prayer to always see other people as our allies and not our enemies, to understand our true enemy is the devil, the powers of darkness, and fight that, but do it together.